fall. I was watching a toddler in our halls last week. He had that sweet, weebly, wobbly step for people who are new to walking. And with all the Sunday morning traffic in the hall, he lost his balance navigating a stair step down. Of course, as soon as he was down, he was right back up again. You can't keep a toddler down for long, we know. And then the same week, I was visiting with an older member in the hospital. She had broken her hip in a fall in her own home. She was down for a longer count. And now she was facing several difficult decisions: where to live, whether or not to keep driving, and maybe even to leave Tulsa to move out of state to live with her only living adult child in some place she had never lived before. We all fall. Each time we rise is a little bit different. Another will say he's a middle-aged member, because I think he'll appreciate that, and he might be here. Was working on building a new home for his new wife when he fell from the top of, I think it was a 30-foot ladder onto a concrete floor. He was a mess, if even he would say so. And he has risen strong, better than before. Today, a couple of months later, he is braceless and castless and walking on his own and profoundly grateful to be alive. And so my good news for you in this new year is you will fall. And somehow you will rise. Quickly and immediately, like the toddler, slowly and painfully, hesitantly, incompletely, with lots of help, alone, weaker, stronger. You will, because we are made, built, programmed, it seems. We are designed, determined, destined to fall and to rise again. That's the truth. God's honest truth, I grew up saying. Who we are when we rise again is up to us, though, not up to God. Why? Because it's the work we do when we're flat on our faces that determines who we'll be when we rise again. It's the work we do in the delta, in the swirling emotions and stories, anxieties and ambitions that get stirred up when life surprises us again and again with its reliable and unrelenting change that makes all the difference. You've experienced at least one, I imagine, faceplant out there, yes? Oh, good. That's what Brenee Brown calls it when life reminds us we're all on a hero's journey, because life does throw us on the ground face down and waits for us to get back up again. We're all on a hero's journey in this new year, 2016. We love these movies we've been watching this holiday season, Star Wars and Spotlight and Mockingjay and Harry Potter back in the day. I still like them. Not just because they're entertaining, but because we're looking for clues for what we're supposed to do in our own lives when we're facing challenges that seem insurmountable, when we're sure we're outgunned and outmaneuvered, when we don't feel prepared or up to the task. For those of you who saw the new Star Wars movie, how do you fly this spaceship? It's a great moment. It could be a death or a divorce, probably not a spaceship, a disability, an addiction, just like our fallible heroes who falter before our eyes repeatedly. We fail and have to try again. We get bruised and beaten. We feel like giving up, wish we could give up, want to give up. We want to hide, fight, or flee. Sometimes we want to do all three at the same time. We fear for our very lives, just like the heroes in the movies. And then we falter, fail, and fall, and then we get up and start all over again. So if you're ready and want your hero's assignment for this new year, how many of you are ready? Excellent. You can count it on one hand. Here's the assignment. To be a hero in 2016, you be all in, fall, get up, and do it again. You want to say it with me? You can say it quietly to yourself. Be me, be all in, fall, get up, and do it again. That's it. That's it. That's it. So I want to tell you a story to me that is the epitome of what Brenee Brown is teaching in her book. It's kind of a conglomerate of a few church stories that I hope will convey what she's talking about in the book. And if I could give you each the book as a present for the new year, I would. So this story starts with a phone call to our care team. For those of you who don't know, we have volunteer members who carry a phone 24/7. So when somebody's in distress, they can always reach somebody, and that somebody can always reach a minister. And this caller was in great distress. He'd been struggling in his marriage. He had been living apart from his wife. And when he went over to reconnect with his spouse, he found her with somebody else. Shame and rage both rushed in, and a fierce anger smothering the pain. And then his mind started piling thoughts on top of the emotions. I'll show her. I'll get him. Things did get physical in that moment. And the emotions, the thoughts, and the stories kept rushing around inside of him. The pain, I'm not good enough. The blame, if I hadn't gained all that weight. The anger, I hate them. The despair, how could she? The regret, if I'd graduated with that degree, then maybe. And the shame, what's wrong with me? Life knocked the hero of our story down flat on his face into the delta. We're going to leave him there for a minute. He's held by the love in this place. You probably know a delta is a place where rivers flow into the sea. And in nature, they are confusing and chaotic places. Currents swirl around and lead in unpredictable directions. The waters are murky with deposits of silt and sand, and it takes patience and persistence to see our way forward out into the open seas. And deltas are extremely fertile. They're powerfully life-giving with all that action and activity. Another thing you probably know is that the sign for delta is a triangle. It's that Greek letter for change or difference, which is an amazing thing and an important thing to remember on your hero's journey this week, because the 3 points of that triangle also represent what's involved in transformation, in becoming our whole selves through all the experiences we have in our life, our emotions, our thoughts, and our behaviors. Our emotions, our thoughts, and our behaviors are all touched, are all involved when we fall and struggle to rise up again. But it's in that struggle, in the deltas of our lives, that we learn the most important things about ourselves, the truths of our very beings. And it's up to us, then, whether we'll rise out of there a more compassionate and a more courageous and a wiser woman or man, or not. Because it's right in the delta, right in the difference between all those stories we're making up about ourselves and the other people in our lives. It's right in the distance between all that storytelling and the truth, right in that disconnect, right in that distance, in the most uncomfortable parts of our lives, that we find our own truth, our own way, and our own light. So if you're listening to those words carefully, it sounds an awful lot like a gospel. Yeah, own way, own truth, own light. The Gospel of John, precisely, and it's not an accident that I'm using those words, because it's in John's Gospel that we find that very interesting passage about truth, which is our theme this month. Know the truth, and the truth will scare you to death. Why are you laughing? Did I get it wrong? And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Yes. So let's look at what truth Jesus meant for a minute. Conservative and evangelical Christians, and you might know just a few people who choose to think this way, like to say it's the truth of his way being the only way. But I want us to take a little closer look. John, as we know, wrote that latest gospel about 70 years after Jesus had died, which means the writer was interpreting the life of Jesus for the earliest Christian communities, people who are sometimes still calling themselves Jewish Christians or Christian Jews with their multiple identities. He was affirming their new identities as followers of a new way. Accept, claim, and name this new identity, and you will be free too, he seemed to be teaching. Free from what? They wonder, listening to him. And so logically they ask. We are Abraham's descendants and have never yet been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free? If you listen to their question carefully, you can hear that they were thinking about literal or physical freedom. They weren't enslaved, had never been in their lifetime, so what was he talking about? But Jesus wasn't talking about physical confinement or release. He was talking about internal and invisible dimensions of freedom. Spiritual, emotional, and psychological states of freedom versus being imprisoned by our own habits, our emotions, our anxieties, our thoughts, and our fears. We all know that kind of confinement. He was finding freedoms that didn't depend on a tradition, but on a life lived in congruence with his deepest values. He was saying, be true to who you really are. Find out who you really are. If what I'm saying and doing makes sense to you, do this too, but don't be ashamed of it. It won't be easy. It's a hero's journey for sure, but if you're not you, how will you come to know your own capacity to love? If you're not you, how will you come to know your own God, the God that lives in you, the God that is you? Jesus wasn't saying my way is the only way. He was saying, if this way works for you, don't deny it. You're known and loved no matter what. But you'll only know that love is true and real in your own life when you dare to be who you really are. Gandhi actually said it too in his own words. Gandhi said, truth is God. So your duty is to express the truth that is you, which is why there are as many religions as there are individuals in Gandhi's consciousness. Express the truth that is you, no matter what the risk, no matter how vulnerable you must become, no matter how scary, no matter what you must sacrifice. Just think about Jesus' life. Jesus was as vulnerable as he was strong. It's as if his vulnerability was his superpower. No superhuman heroic endurance to overcome pain or suffering or death. No shields, no superpowers besides his vulnerability and his capacity to bear and tell the truth. Even when he was facing his own death, he spoke the truth. Even though as a man and as a leader of other men and other women, his words made him appear weak, he said, "This is too much for me. This is more than I can bear. Take away this cup." So many men and women still today would feel shame if they were to express those kinds of feelings and thoughts out loud before a crowd. Can you imagine a presidential candidate saying, "I'm not up to this"? It's as if all men were born with instructions that read, do not be perceived as weak. But Jesus gives us different instructions. So my question to you is, are you ready to follow those this year? Are you ready to love like that? With Brenee Brown, with Brenee Brown's help, I'm going to try, and I think we can. She's encouraging all of us to live a more wholehearted life. And her research reveals that shame is the biggest obstacle to being all of who we really are. It's the biggest obstacle to living and telling our own, very own, true stories. So there are 3 things you need to know about shame up front. 1, everyone has it. Writing this, I was thinking back to the Garden of Eden. You know what's the first thing that happens after Adam and Eve pick that apple, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? What's the first feeling, emotion they have? Shout it out. Shame. This is all about learning to talk about shame. Shout it out even louder. Shame. Everyone has it. We're all afraid to admit it. The less we talk about it, the more control it has over our lives. Everyone has it. We're all afraid to admit it. The less we talk about it, the more control it has. Everyone got the message at some point, probably way too early in life, that you eat too much or you don't eat enough. You read too much or you don't read enough. You're too dark or you're too light. You're too lazy. You're too ambitious. You're too outgoing. Oh, no, you're too shy. Oh, sorry, no, you're too passive. Oh, no, you're too aggressive. I take that back. You're too selfish. Oh, you're way too generous. They're taking advantage of you. You get it because you got it. The message, there's something wrong with you the way you are. And it hurts so much, we decide, consciously or unconsciously, that we're going to hide, or we're going to hit back even harder, or we're going to pretend it doesn't hurt at all. But those are all lies. I remember, this is a short story from my own life, I remember when my classmates and teachers made fun of a story I had written and read aloud in class. I think I was in the 7th grade. I was so hurt, but I didn't share my hurt with anyone. Instead of I crept out of the class, ran to the locker room, shut myself in the girls' bathroom with a door behind me before I let myself cry. And when I look back, I think I found the perfect little shame incubator down in the girls' locker room of my high school. And as I was hiding, of course, I'm telling myself these crazy stories. I'm never going to expose myself like that again. People are mean, too mean. I'm never going to write anything again. I'm never going to read anything again. I'm a complete failure. And of course, the big loser, who's the big loser in all of that? Yes, me. Only me. Because shame is a big fat liar. I think you should repeat that one too. Shame is a big fat liar, and it's also a thief, because what it robs us of are the connections with people that we want, the honest, intimate, vulnerable connections that we want with other people that we won't let ourselves have when we're feeling ashamed. So it's important to remember that guilt is okay. I did a bad thing. I want to do better next time. But shame is never productive. I am bad. There's no place to go. There's no place to go from there. So I was talking about some of this with Rick Fortner. Rick Fortner, you listening? And he asked me, I told you I'd get you back. So what are we supposed to do about this shame thing, Barbara? Is what he asked me. What do? We all have it. We don't want to talk about it. What do we do about it? Well, since it thrives in darkness, we have to shine a light on shame. We have to befriend it, learn to recognize it, seek it out, speak about it, face it, name it, claim it, wrestle with it. I challenge you this year to pay attention to it, because if you do, you'll develop what Brown calls shame resilience. Shame resilience. Which made me think about, do you remember playing that game Truth or Dare when you were a little kid? Did you guys play that game? It was mostly about who kissed who and who had a crush on who. But I was thinking, what does it take more courage to do back then, do you think? Did it take more courage to tell the truth or more courage to take a dare? Do you know who you are? Donna knows who she is. And did it make a difference? Did it make a difference whether you chose truth or dare? So let's just play. Let's imagine the game. I can see on your faces that you're remembering. Let's just pretend with me for a minute that we're playing truth or dare, and decide inside your own head which one to choose. Probably remember which one you chose when you were a kid too. So land on one inside yourself, truth or dare. Looks like you've got it. And now I'm going to ask you a question, and pay attention both to your own answer, but also to how happy you were with your choice. Are you happy you chose the truth, or do you wish you'd chosen a dare? Okay, here comes the question. What made you feel shame as a child, and what makes you feel shame as an adult? I'll just give you another minute. I'll repeat it one more time. What made you feel shame as a child? And what makes you feel shame now as an adult? And as you return your attention back to this sanctuary full of light and memories and hope, I'll remind you that living the truth takes courage. Telling the truth, even to ourselves, about our own shame takes courage. Because we're even ashamed of our shame. That shame grows in the dark. It feeds on lies and secrets. Ignore it, and it confines and controls us. Face it, and it fades away. If you decide you want to build up your shame resilience this year, I will work with you. Maybe we'll even start a little Brenee Brown group here at church, is what I'm starting to think. You might want to start with something a little bit smaller than your love life. You might want to start with something like, I actually did finish all the ice cream last night. That one can be hard, because then pay attention to the stories you're telling yourself about why you did. I'm such a pig, I have no self-control. And then check out the stories you're telling yourself with someone else. The story I'm telling myself is that you think I'm fat, and who do I think I am to finish all the ice cream that you bought? Terry? I don't know what Terry would say back to me, but I do know that when you dare check out your story with somebody else, when you risk checking out your story, you will hear a new truth that will offer you a new freedom in that moment, even when that truth hurts. The hero of our story, do you remember him? We left him over here. He knows this. Somehow, despite the blinding pain and the binding rage of the physical betrayal, our hero dared open an eye when he was flat on the floor, face plant, face down. What do we normally go into? We curl up like a baby, and we scrunch our eyes, and we close our fists, and we kick our feet, and we can't see anything, hear anything, know anything, take in any more information. So remember this, when you fall down the next time, just see if you dare crack open an eye, and you'll have a whole new perspective. Because right there, flailing away through the swirling delta of his feelings and his thoughts and his behaviors, he was able to connect with his core values, our hero. He allowed himself to feel his love for his wife. And according to his worldview, violence is reserved for protection from physical harm, and his body was not at risk, and so he didn't draw the gun that he so easily could have. He remembered his family and his community and how much they loved him, and he called the church, and he called his father, and he asked for prayers. And he remembered that he's the author of his own life. And so he drove himself far away in the other direction to spend the night with a friend. He asked for help, and he accepted help. And he chose the right people to talk to, which is key. He didn't choose the ones who would egg him on and feed his anger and build him up. He called the ones who know that he gets to write that chapter of his life, the ending and the beginning of the next one. And he did it quickly, in a matter of hours. Sometimes it takes months or years for us to rise back up, more whole than we were before, with a stronger sense of our core values, more capable of living true to who we really are. Really, it's the work of a lifetime. because we will all fall again and again. So before ending, I want to offer you just a few tools to help you along this hero's journey that you've already ascended to. Remember? What is it? Be me, be all in, fall, get up, and do it again. There you go, you're on your way. So I don't know if our hero, the man who called the care team phone, spent some time writing things out to help him come back to his senses, wake now my senses. But they say in their studies to prove it that writing is a really important and effective tool. I'm quoting now, emotional upheavals touch every part of our lives. You don't just lose a job, you don't just get divorced. These things affect all aspects of who we are, our financial situation, our relationship with others, our views of ourselves, our issues of life and death. Writing helps us focus and organize the experience. That's from James Pennebaker, a researcher at UT Austin, who says this is because our minds are designed to try to understand the things that happen to us. Writing, translating messy, difficult experiences into language makes them graspable. So next time you do a faceplant, next time life knocks you over and you're swallowed up in a storm of stories and feelings, remember first, look around. You might see something you've never seen before. And then when you're finally sitting up, no matter how long it takes to get there, grab something to write with and start with this prompt. The story I'm making up is. Scan your emotions and your thoughts and your body. The story I'm making up is. Word of caution, don't write your memoir. This is not the time to try to write your memoir. The same research shows that writing about emotional upheavals for just 15 minutes a day, 4 days in a row, 15 minutes a day, 4 days in a row, decreases anxiety and depression. If you have a close and trusted friend, you might want to check out your story with that friend. This is another little tool to remember. Brenee recommends that you take out a 1-inch piece of paper, which is like those really small Post-its, and Post-its will do. And on that really small piece of paper, write the names of the people that you really trust. The people who really know you and love you and will tell you when you need to be harder on yourself and when you need to be easier on yourself. It really shouldn't be more than just a few people. You might want to tell that person, I want to check out this story I'm telling myself right now, to exit out of that paralyzing shame into more appropriate, healthy feelings that will help you grow. Like, I could have done a better job. I regret this part. This is what I want to do next time. This is how I'm going to make amends. The point is, ignore the opinions of all the other people in the world, the opinions that you're projecting on yourself often from your mother or your minister or your teacher or your spouse or your friend. Their opinions in that moment don't matter. You're looking for your own way, your own truth, and your own light. Remember, you're on a hero's journey. Just like that toddler, just like that older woman with her broken hip, just like our intrepid home builder and the broken-hearted husband. Your mission is to be you. Your command is to be all in. Your instructions are to fall, get up, and do it again. Because our city and our state and our very conflicted nation and our beautiful and suffering world needs more of the true you. Hold on, I'm going to end with the words of Brenee Brown and her manifesto of the brokenhearted. If you're one of those people who takes things in more easily when your eyes are closed, please feel free. Let's see, I have glasses here. There is no greater threat to the critics and cynics and fear-mongers than those of us who are willing to fall because we have learned to rise. with skinned knees and bruised hearts. We choose owning our stories of struggle over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. When we deny our stories, they define us. When we run from struggle, we are never free. So we turn toward truth and look it in the eye. We will not be characters in our stories, not villains, not victims, not even heroes. We are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. We craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, grace from disappointment, courage from failure. Showing up is our power. Story is our way home. Truth is our song. We are the brave and the brokenhearted, and we are rising strong. May it be so for you this year. Amen.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVE-BB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVE-BB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.